You're listening to the Cashology Podcast by FNBO, a place dedicated to helping you become more financially savvy every day. It's a little like school, but your only homework is living your best financial life. I'm your host, Justin, and class is now in session. Hey, podcast listeners. I had an absolute wonderful time talking with Chris, and we even got to talking to more things after we, hit the stop recording button. So I do hope you take some time, pop into the show notes. Chris had some really great resources of other comparators of how, U.S. adults compare as it relates to financial literacy to other countries. So lots of great things that Chris had and brought to the table. Unfortunately, we just didn't get it all in the recording. So I hope you take some time to pop into the show notes and see some of that stuff. Welcome back to the Cashology Podcast, a place where we dive deep into personal finance to bring you actionable insights and real-life wisdom. Today, we're joined by Chris Turner, who is the Community Reinvestment Act Officer here at FNBO. She has dedicated herself to increasing financial education and literacy in the next generation, and, well, we felt the perfect person to talk to about this topic. Welcome, Chris.
Hi there. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Well, let's start with this. Tell us a little bit about yourself and explain what you do and why we're talking about today. Enhancing financial literacy in school is so important.
All right. So I have always been in banking, everything from a teller to HR to compliance. And I think that over the years, I've been able to touch on financial education with lots of different groups. It's something that I feel is extremely important. One, because I see it in society and I see where it lacks. Also, I'm a mom of 3 kids. And so I want to make sure that as they are moving into the next phase of their lives and they're becoming financially responsible adults. So something that I'm very, very passionate about.
Very cool. And, I can relate to, just like growing up, getting out of college, becoming like an adult, quote unquote, and then just realizing, oh man, all this finance stuff, nobody ever really taught us about, balance a checkbook or anything like that throughout school. So I think it's great to be passionate about all this stuff. So speaking about all that, I found a statistic that says 2/3 of American adults cannot pass a basic financial literacy test. What's your response to that?
It's shocking, but I actually think it's probably even worse than what that statistic shows. So I find it very interesting. I was reading an article recently, I think it was done in early 24, and they said that 46% of American adults, only 46% of American adults can cover a $1,000 emergency with their savings.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Think of all the things that come up, car repairs or home repairs or medical bills. And that's really scary to think that there are such a large population of people out there that haven't been able to get to a comfortable point in life where they can afford that $1,000.
Totally. And I myself, we just bought a house and, you save up for this stuff, but oh my gosh, one thing after the other kind of just comes up and it's very daunting. And yeah, you don't really know that stuff is going to happen. And so $1,000 is
right.
Kind of seems, I don't know, not a lot, but it's kind of unfortunate. It's hard to, budget for that and make sure you have that. So I guess from what I can tell, this is clearly a big problem. Can you tell us a little bit about the current state of financial education and maybe we work towards some possible ways to solve the problem?
Certainly. So I think the attention on financial education has continued to improve, not only across banks, but across other businesses as well. They're seeing that as they're hiring in employees, obviously they may have all the training that they need, but you want an employee that can follow a budget or an employee that knows how to balance, their employee accounts as far as their pay cards, right? If they're out traveling. Mm-hmm. So I think some of the things that we're starting to see, especially in the last couple of years, are really, really positive. I noticed that, here, I live in Kansas City, and Kansas is one of only 25 states that requires financial education in high school. So think about that. 50 states in the union, and only 50% of them require a credit in financial education to graduate from high school. That's a little scary, right? You're sending these kids out into the world and they don't have a clue, like you said, about balancing a checkbook. I think that one thing as a society that we've done really well is we've taught kids how to use credit cards, but we haven't really taught them how a credit card works or the consequences of using a credit card and if you don't pay it. And so those are some of the things I think as a society we're starting to see, oh gosh, we probably need to be educating and empowering the next generation. I know that some of the things that we are seeing, one, as a bank, we are being very proactive in how we reach out to communities, whether that be community groups, whether that be schools, whether that even be elder, like assisted living homes. We're reaching out to them as well to talk about financial education and how we can help them in all the different phases in life. So I like to see the trend improving, but I think we still have a long way to go.
Oh, for sure. So now I'm curious with that. So at the bank here, then at FNBO, how long have we been doing like those types of community education events? Kind of like what kind of it does it all entail? And
so I will say historically, FNBO has been very proactive in this area. I think it is something looking back over the history of the bank we've always done, but with the ability to reach consumers and reach communities through different means that doesn't all have to be in person. Mm-hmm. We're really finding ways to be kind of innovative in how we reach out. So we do things from participating in Teach Kids to Save Day, teaming up with local high schools, with local middle schools. I've even been to elementary schools talking about needs versus wants, which is a whole other conversation with kids, right? Yeah. They don't understand needs versus wants. We do a lot with various organizations like Junior Achievement. They're a nationwide organization. And so we have bankers that are going out and working not only in classrooms, but they're going out and working with these organizations to work with kids and really provide like real life scenarios, giving them a budget and having them learn how to balance it, or giving them a fake job and earn a paycheck and having to learn how to buy groceries and pay bills. Yeah. So it's really exciting to see.
What are the main challenges to implementing effective financial education in schools?
Gosh, that's kind of a loaded question. I think there's a couple of different things that you can do, but I think some of the challenges are just bringing the awareness. So you think about all the different courses that you can take in class or in school, right? And I think of the school district that I live in, kids can take Spanish, they can take French, they can take Chinese, and they're all taking ways to improve their English. But nobody really talks about like the language of money, right? And I think you have to kind of look at that and say, okay, what is something that these kids need that's going to provide for them in the future? And so it's really kind of starting that conversation. I think a lot of it should start at home, but I don't know that it always necessarily does start at home. And so working with your school groups, or even whether you are a parent or you work with an organization, having those conversations at the school level, but being willing to go out and volunteer, being willing to go out and teach those courses, or being willing to go out and be a volunteer with an organization that provides that. I think that's one place to start. I know that some of the things that I've seen businesses do is they'll go into areas where maybe there are schools that have the option of doing financial education, but maybe it's not a requirement. And so they find a way to team up with that school, and maybe they're incenting the school to do financial education in some ways.
Interesting.
50 states, only 25 have financial education requirements, right?
Yeah.
So if you're not providing financial education and you're receiving funds from the state, obviously that's not going to work. You have to provide the education to get the funding, right? But what about those other 25 states? And so I think in some areas I've seen it's been really unique where organizations will team up with school districts or with schools, and they'll go in and say, look, we would like to provide this, and here's what we will do for you in order for you to allow us to come in. And it's not really there to push products or to push their company, but they're really seeing that as a need and wanting to give back.
Yeah. That's really cool. Because like I said, at the top of the podcast, I look back, I don't remember having any kind of like formal education in this, but some of what you had said too, of a lot of this starting at home. My mom used to beat into everything is cash, right? Like kind of, you have cash, once it's gone, so hold on to it. And still in some ways it's that way. And, I've evolved to like how to effectively and appropriately use a credit card, right? It's not just free money. that's just out there, right?
All right.
And so a lot of that stuff is like translated really well, but the lack of that in a formal education, setting, not everybody was probably as lucky as I was, right, to have my mom. Yeah.
Kudos to your mom for doing that.
Hi, Mom.
I won't tell. I won't tell you my age, but like I remember being younger, and you had the toy cash register.
Oh yes,
and it had the plastic coins and the paper bills. And if you were playing store, you actually the money went away, right?
Uh-huh.
If you walk into any store now and you look at toy cash registers, it's all just a piece of plastic. Mm-hmm. And so they're just swiping a card. And that's what we're teaching them to do is, hey, you just have this card and you swipe it. But there's really no conversation on the back end of, well, where does that money come from? Mm-hmm. And what if you don't pay that back?
Yes. Yeah.
What can it lead to?
Yeah. Very tough life lessons, I could say from experience. So how can our listeners advocate for financial literacy programs in their local schools and communities? And what suggestions can they share to make financial education more accessible and impactful for all students?
I would say, again, I'm going to say reach out to your schools. It could be something like, working with the librarian. Sometimes librarians like to offer programs like that. At my son's school, we have a STEM program. And funny enough, one of their projects this year for 5th grade was they had to create a concept. They had to figure out how to fund it. And then they had to sell a product. And so I'm like, that's nothing I learned in 5th grade, right? So, but that all came about because there was a conversation with some of the teachers that said, hey, I want these kids to have real life scenarios. And so it's starting younger and younger. I would say also just finding groups, that maybe your kids are involved in. Is it Boy Scouts? Is it Girl Scouts? Is it Heritage Girls? Like all those types of things kids are needing to earn badges for. I know there's a badge out there for financial education. So I just think that's some ways that people could get started. And if you're super passionate and you want to join your school board, that's always a great way to start too.
Well, wonderful. That's all great to hear. And I really hope some of our listeners really take that and, reach out and kind of get connected in the community. Well, thank you so much, Chris, for sitting down and chatting with us today.
Absolutely. And I think one more thing for our listeners to take away.
Oh, love it.
Call your bank, right? I know we're not the only bank that does this, but we would love to be the bank out there that's having those conversations. Mm-hmm. So reach out. We've got branches all across various states. We can do it in person. We can do it virtually. And we're happy to present, whether that be a school event, whether that be just, a scouting group, or if you're just a teacher that's looking for ways to, get more information out to your own kiddos. Just give us a call. We're happy to set something up. Yeah.
So if you're a listener and you're close to one of our branch locations, give us a call, hop on to FNBO.com. You could find your closest branch location phone number. And maybe we could even get you connected with Chris. So
absolutely happy to do it.
Yeah. Thanks again, Chris. Thanks for joining.
You're so welcome. Thanks for having me.
So if there are any more resources you're looking for, check out FNBO.com, or you can subscribe to us on YouTube or on your favorite podcast platform. Consider giving us a rating or review, as they do help us get the word out. And remember, our discussions are designed to inform and inspire. For personalized advice, we always recommend consulting a financial professional. Hopefully you choose FNBO, but we do recommend consulting with a financial professional regardless. Until next time, keep on making smart financial choices, and thanks for listening to the Cashology Podcast. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender. Podcasts are for informational purposes only and not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations. When making decisions about your financial situation, consult a financial professional for advice. Podcasts are not regularly updated and information may become outdated. Deposit products are offered by First National Bank of Omaha, member FDIC. Investment products are not FDIC insured, not a deposit or other obligation of the bank. Not insured by any federal government agency. Not guaranteed by the bank, may lose value. The Cashology Podcast, copyright First National Bank of Omaha.